Truly, something in college sports needs to change. Things have gotten way out of hand over the last couple of years, and honestly, it is starting to kill my personal love for the sport and many of my close friends around me. As a teenager and as a college student, I absolutely loved college football each and every week, and it was always so exciting. Whether it was seeing two rivals play, whether it was seeing that recruit who you saw commit 3 years ago finally pan out, or turning on the TV to that nationally broadcasted game that had an awesome crew and had an awesome ambience to it. To be honest, none of that really exists in college football anymore. For one, everything has gotten so out of hand that you can watch 8 games at once and you have to see every little soundbite and every little clip, which honestly just clogs everyone's brain and makes it not as enjoyable. There are literally very few recruits who actually stay with a school for 3 or 4 years now, so that guy who just committed to your team out of the high school class likely won't make it. If he doesn't get enough money after his freshman year, he's likely going to go to another school. Take Mizzou for example. The Tigers are my team, and in last year's recruiting class, they grabbed Williams Winery, Courtney Crutchfield, Jalen Brown, and a player by the name of Keywan Lacey. All 3 of these guys were big-time 4-star recruits, and all of them had one thing in common. After not playing a lot their freshman year, they dipped for another school to cash a check. Honestly, I don't even know what the point of signing these players was, and I'm sure you can pretty much insert any school around the country or insert any fan base, and they will feel the same way. At this point, with how crazy the transfer portal has gotten, why on earth are we even signing kids out of high school? We might as well just let other schools develop them and then pick our favorites by the end of it. Sure, the portal is great and beneficial for some players, but at this point, it's just complete madness. Going back to another earlier point, the matchups that we have don't really make any sense anymore. Like honestly, last year I went to a Kansas State-Arizona game, and the game has no meaning to it. Arizona's thousands of miles across the country, they've barely ever played each other, and what the heck is on the line? Also, why is BYU and UCF a Big 12 game? Why is Oregon-Rutgers a Big 10 game? And why is SMU versus Cal an ACC game? A lot of this stuff doesn't really make any sense, and whether people want to admit it or not, it's killing the sport. People loved watching for the pageantry, the rivals, the history, and all that, and before you could actually travel to a lot of your team's road games. You had friends and families who went to those other schools, and then on top of that, you watched players develop, you usually had a good broadcast, and a lot of people bonded over just watching one game at a time. Instead now, players enter the portal after 5 minutes, not a single recruit pretty much sticks with their school, and then meanwhile, you're loaded with 8 games on at once on YouTube TV, and now things are getting exponentially worse. Sure, I sort of dragged out this intro, and I'm sort of going on a rant at this point, but I'm sick and tired of seeing all this eligibility stuff. Whether it was Diego Pavia a couple months ago, or now we're talking about Zakai Ziegler at Tennessee. There's one thing in common with both of these players. Diego Pavia ended up playing JUCO for a couple of years and claimed he was missing out on NIL earnings because technically JUCO football wasn't college football. Again, a lot of this sounds like rubbish to me, and if he would just be transparent and say that he's not good enough for the NFL and wants to collect a paycheck, then honestly I'd accept the answer. But people pretending like they care about the legalities and legalisms of college football is just nonsense to me. They don't. Diego Pavia is not going to get a check from the NFL, so he might as well get it from NIL. Secondly, a couple of years ago, the NCAA implemented a rule in which you could play in 4 games and count for your redshirt year. Now, Zakai Ziegler, a Tennessee basketball player, is challenging that he's claiming that you should be able to play 5 full years in 5 years instead of playing 4 years plus 4 games for a redshirt. Maybe it's not the end of the world, and sure, maybe there is a little bit of logic to that, but what we've seen over the last few years in college football is that the players pretty much get away with whatever they want now. Whatever amount of money, they can break pretty much whatever rule they want, they can jump in the portal 15 times, and now all of a sudden they're going to pretty much get unlimited eligibility. I know when players go off to the NFL, they sign a contract saying they're going to give away their eligibility, but at what point is that going to also be challenged? Let's say you're a player who goes to play for Georgia, and after 3 years you declare for the NFL draft and you go in the 4th round. Let's say you flame out after 2 years in the league. Surely at this point, what is stopping you from going back to Georgia, enrolling in classes, and jumping back on the college football team? I'm not a lawyer and I haven't really read into this stuff, but at some point, I feel like that's going to happen. There is truly just madness in college football right now, and something desperately needs to come in to stabilize it. I know a lot of people back in the day claimed that college athletes were pretty much being worked to death, and that it was a terrible system that was so unfair. But for people to say that athletes got pretty much nothing back in the day is ludicrous to me, as I know so many people who are knee-deep in student loan debt and could never dream of being able to pay for college. Not only did these players get free tuition, but they had all the opportunity in the world to advance, the connections, the staff, the food, the weight room, and then on top of that, they had an opportunity to go to the NFL, they had an opportunity to have everyone around the country know who they were, they were on TV pretty much each and every week, and millions of people adored these guys. To say that they got nothing out of it is just absolutely ridiculous in my eyes, but instead of somewhat meeting in the middle, we decided to go the polar opposite direction. Now we always have constant nonsense going on, like the Amaliava brothers, who decided he would just opt out because he wanted to get more money. Nico didn't show up to practice, and Madden over at Arkansas just signed a couple of autographs, then took the money and quit and went across the country. If I were a coach or a staff member at any college football team, any guy who jumps in the portal multiple times or pulls that sort of nonsense would immediately be put on my do not contact list. But again, college football has gotten so out of whack that I guess people don't really care. Coaching staffs would rather have a talented player who's played at 3 schools than to just develop someone from scratch. Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about one of the most annoying things that's gone on in college football, and that is the extra year of eligibility. I would say that 90% of FBS athletes got pretty much a full season in 2020, yet they decided to give everyone a full year of extra eligibility, which has been milked and milked and milked by so many different players. I mean, Cam McCormick played 9 years, Taquan Roberson's on year number 7, Dylan Gabriel is on year number 7, and then guys like Sean Clifford and Tanner Morgan rewrote their school's record books because they had an extra year or 2 to play. To me, all this stuff is just really annoying and has taken away the integrity of the sport. Not only are you not playing teams that are locally, but your recruits aren't staying, you're overloaded with information, players jump in and out of the portal for extra paychecks, they pretty much do the bare minimum, and then on top of that, they're on their 3rd or 4th school and are on their 8th or 9th year of college football. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but that's just what it feels like has happened, and things are just continuing to get out of whack. The NCAA, I guess, was always built on sand, so they can't really enforce anything, and now players are just taking full advantage of it. The NCAA's point in saying that players could play 4 games and still keep a red shirt was that so they could get valuable on-the-field reps and not just sit out the entire year, or if there was a certain scenario in which there were some injuries, a guy wouldn't have to burn his red shirt for playing at the end of the year in a game or 2. Now instead, the players are taking that to their advantage and just asking for another full year of eligibility so they can collect another paycheck because honestly, they aren't good enough for the NBA or the NFL. Like, yeah, Diego Pavia had a great story, he helped rebuild Vanderbilt, and had that awesome upset against Bama, but now this guy is definitely annoying me. People claim that JUCO football isn't college football, and I want to ask them the question, what is it then? It's not high school football, it's not prep football, and it's not your local rec league either. The title of it literally says junior college. Sure, it may not be at the level you want, but it's still college football and should count against your eligibility. In that case, why not go play 2 years at JUCO, then do 4 more years in the NIA, before then transferring up to the FBS level? If you do the math there, you can get 11 years to play college football and just keep racking in NIL paychecks, all while you transfer between 6 or 7 different schools in the process. That's not exactly what I want college football to be, and I know a lot of people share the same sentiments and opinions that I do. Okay, so what's my solution to the issue? Well, in a perfect world, there are 2 things that I think solve this mess. 1, there absolutely has to be contracts. If you're a player who decides to transfer from Alcorn State to LSU, I think you should sign a contract, and the only way of getting out of that contract would be to pay something. You know how it works in the real world, like when you have to break a lease and you have to pay a bunch of money to get out of it? That's what should happen in college football. Maybe we don't put limits on the amount of times you can transfer, but when players all of a sudden have to start paying money to get out of contracts to transfer, you know most of them are going to stay put, and guys coming out of high school, if they sign contracts, aren't going to want to leave. There will be rare circumstances in which it happens, and maybe some other school will come in and throw a huge bag at them, but that will be the exception and not the norm. Secondly, I think there absolutely has to be an age limit. Sure, there's plenty of 45-year-olds who go back to college, and it's good for them that they get their degree, and it's also cool that 27 and 28-year-olds also get to get their degree, but for college football, it should honestly be strictly 18 to 24. I think those guys who are 17 and reclassifying are probably a little bit too young and face an injury risk, and sure, there's every once in a while a guy like Ryan Williams, but for the most part, most of those 17-year-olds are not ready, mentally or physically, and it does damage to their long-term career. See JT Daniels, for example. If you enforce an age limit, then you're just done and there are no exceptions and no waivers. Obviously, there can be a little bit of grace there, as if you turn 24 the day before the season starts, you don't have to get kicked off the team. But essentially, I think college football actually needs to be defined, and there needs to be some sort of backbone to this. Make a guy sign a contract and establish the age range for players. Right now in college football, it feels like all the stuff that used to make it special has been taken away, and then all the downsides of professional football have been added in. The relentless free agency, the relentless nonsense, the lack of geographical ties, the endless eligibility, and the constant whining from players that they aren't getting enough. I mean, just for example, we literally saw in the last couple of weeks Tennessee and UCLA trade quarterbacks. At this point, we literally might as well start doing trades. Just go ahead and make it formal. Tennessee wants to give up their star receiver, and they want to go take Arkansas' star running back. Go ahead and make a fair trade. You obviously can decide if you want to agree or disagree with all my opinions, but that is personally how I feel. I'll be honest with you guys, there are plenty of times where I don't even want to make YouTube videos anymore because I just don't care. All the things that I used to love about college football have been taken away. There is no depth to the games anymore, the broadcast is terrible, we're overstimulated, there's a bunch of 8th year guys playing, there aren't any recruits that end up staying, and then everyone just jumps around 15 times. This is not what anybody envisioned college football would become when NIL was passed back in 2021, as yeah, maybe DJ was going to hold a Dr. Pepper can, or Bryce Young was going to be with the Aflac Duck or something like that, but not this. There are literally boosters and agencies that just funnel money to pay players. These guys are not getting paid for their name, image, and likeness, they're just getting paid. At this point, just give them a contract, make it hard to get out of, and enforce an age limit. If you're 18 to 24, you can suit up for your college football team. If not, you're done. Doesn't mean you can't go to college or still get your graduate degree afterwards. You can go ahead and do that, but doesn't mean you can play college football. I think the ultimate problem here is that the NCAA can't enforce anything because they're built on sand, and everything that they've always said and done, I guess legally doesn't really hold up. I'm pretty sure at some point in this current direction, there's going to be limitless eligibility, players will be able to come back from the NFL, guys will be traded mid-season, and eventually people like me and some of the viewers of this channel will just turn their TV off. The NFL has already become insufferable enough between having to hear about everything Taylor Swift does and the 1 million betting ads every single game, and what's going to stop college football from heading in that direction? We've already seen how NIL and all this stuff has essentially destroyed the sport of college basketball, which is another video in itself, but it's just sad. I used to look forward to watching college basketball and college football every Saturday, seeing a team's recruits develop over the course of a couple of years, watching games that have geographical significance, and then seeing some upsets at March Madness or in the playoff. Unfortunately, I think those days are long gone, as money's going to win, TV contracts are going to win, and honestly, loyalty in general is something that does not happen in the modern world, so I'm just sort of sad. College football is not the same that it used to be, and I will continue to deliver good content to you guys as I do enjoy player stories. I try to be different from the mainstream sports media, and I do still love certain elements of it, but I have to admit, it's not the same anymore, and it seems like each and every month, college football gets further and further away from what it was always supposed to be, and what made it super enjoyable. But that's just my thoughts. I've decided to give a rant on the modern state of college football, and what do you think? What do you agree and disagree with from what I said? And what is the solution to this? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you need to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out some of the videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.